Hello, everybody. Welcome, one and all to the Just Interesting podcast, the weekly show where we talk about things that we find just interesting. Today's episode, me and Robin will be discussing some of the more unsung heroes of World War II. Obviously, during World War II, there were thousands upon thousands of, let's face it, interesting stories, horrific actions, but there were many heroes that emerged. And we wanted to talk about some of the lesser known ones, some of the ones that you may not have heard of. But as you can see, it is just me and Robin here today. Robin, how are you doing this week?
I'm well, thank you, Alex. Thank you for hosting. I'm happy to be here. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, although, I'm a bit sad that we have a fallen companion this week.
We do indeed. It turns out that there are consequences to what we say on this podcast.
Consequences. I'm no longer afraid of being cancelled, but I am afraid, Robin, of the Worldwide Fund for Nature.
The World Wildlife Fund, yeah.
World Wildlife Fund. Because after Martin's comments last week about pandas, I'm afraid to say that Big Panda has got to him. And I think last I saw, he was being dragged away by a couple of panda mercenaries, and who knows what's happened to him. I think his legs have been broken with some bamboo. But look,
oh my gosh,
we're not here to discuss how Martin is currently being tortured by pandas. We are
here's a clue though. It's imagine cannibal holocaust.
Oh my god,
but with pandas. And that's what's happening to Martin right now.
But for those of you listening to this at a later date, you may not be aware. No, I'm sure you are aware at this point. But we are a live podcast, and we host these podcasts live over on YouTube at Just Interesting, where we host these every Monday at 9 p.m. GMT. And yeah, come and join us. You can be as cool as some of the people in the comments, like Aaron Lee, James Linton 17, Camera Shy Coco, and Chester Johnson, who are all in the chat right now. Hello, how's everyone doing this evening? Robin, we like to start...
Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah, of course. We like to start these podcasts with a riddle, a little mind teaser to get your neurons, your synapses firing. Would you like?
Yes, please.
Would you like a little brain teaser?
I would. Although, advanced warning to everyone listening to this, whether with us now live on YouTube or at a later date on the podcast platform of your choice, I'm a wee bit foggy-headed. So my usual, I know, startling, my usual 100% score for riddles self is not necessarily with us tonight.
You're making excuses already,
I may struggle
Robin.
to get this. I am making excuses, aren't I? Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
No, I think this
Please go ahead.
I think this is quite an easy one. So feel free to say the answer in the chat if you would like. Here we go. Riddle me this. I am always hungry. I must always be fed. The finger I touch will soon turn red. What am I? I'll say it again. I am always hungry. I must always be fed. The finger I touch will soon turn red. What am I?
The finger I touch will soon turn red.
You're going to hate this riddle, Robin.
Oh, man. Oh, you've done it again.
I'm sure you will, yes. But that was the riddle this week. If you know it, please do send in your answers in the live chat or let us know at a later date. I'm at Just Alexing if you want to contact us either on YouTube or on Twitter. Robin, what are you? What
am I?
Did you want to let people know your handle? How can people get in touch?
At Alltime Robin.
There we go.
Thank you.
So before
I was thinking about the riddle. I was so distracted by that riddle. I did not tune into the whole Twitter thing.
So before we get into the main topic this week, as always, we'll be discussing some things that we learned this week. And also, I thought, with two people, there's always a bit of a downer ending without a quiz. Yeah, so I thought we could go to what is perhaps the best UK... Actually, it's not. It was also in the US as well. The best game show that there was, which is Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Are you ready to join me in the hot seat, Robin, for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire themed quiz?
Oh, yes, Mr. Tarrant, I am here for this.
I'll do my best Chris Tarrant impression. but we're not going to give you that. And we'll see how we go. But stick around and see if you can beat Robin. Yeah, see if you can get more.
It's very
questions
easy.
Correct,
it's not,
than Robin.
You will beat me.
But Robin, I'm interested. What have you learned this week?
Oh, well, after our last episode when we were talking about animals and wildlife, I was reading about animals and I learned something startling that I didn't know about swifts. The common birds that you see often.
If you're about to tell
UK,
me that they're actually quite slow, then I will be shocked.
No, it's not a contradiction. Although I'm impressed they've got their name given the fact I'm about to reveal. So swifts have one of the longest migrations in the world, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
They travel in winter from the UK, because it gets cold, to Africa. And they travel, on average, 14,000 miles every year.
Wow. That is a long way.
It is a long way. In fact, it's such a long way for such a pretty small bird. It takes them just over 10 months. So they spend 10 months of the year traveling to and fro in their migrations. And during that time, they spend 99.5% of that 10-month migration in the air.
Oh, wow.
They don't land.
Why do they do this, though? What's 14,000 miles away?
Really, really good beach. I don't know.
It's just where they're used to.
That's what they do. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Like. But they spend their lives in the air. The only times they come down to the ground, or not even the ground, is when they're nesting. And they build a nest and they lay their eggs and they feed their chicks. And then once they're flying. They do everything in the air. They even sleep in the air, Alex.
But so they must only nest for like a couple of months at a time.
Yeah. Not much time at all. And of course, when they're nesting, they're also flying around getting food for the chicks. So they do spend a lot of that time in the air. And apparently, so that they don't crash when they're sleeping in the air and so that they can do this migration, what they do is they fly to an extreme height and then they fall asleep and they just glide on the winds down.
Wow, that's really interesting. So they purposely
until they wake up and then they
purposefully fall asleep at the wheel of the car.
Yes, essentially, yeah.
Stick on cruise control and fall asleep. Yeah. Wow. Fair enough.
That's what it is, yeah. That's what I learned this week.
I've been watching this week a bit of a recommendation on Disney Plus. I don't know if anyone has it, but there's a series called Supernatural, and that's quite good. It's like a Planet Earth type thing, but hosted by Benedict Cumberbatch. Would recommend. It's it's a
documentary
fun
series.
to watch. Yeah, if you're in,
I thought you were talking about that that Supernatural show from like the noughties,
with Jensen Ackles and
yeah. That's
imagine if I just brought that up randomly now.
That would be so. That was unexpected.
So, that's a bit of a curveball, Alex. But yeah, fair enough. Jensen Ackles is that's very true.
What does Benedict Cumberbatch talk about?
Benedict Cumberbatch. It just talks about lots of animals, but it's kind of focusing on animals' supernatural abilities. Well, not supernatural, but like, the ones their special moves. Their their you know what I mean. Their amazing attack abilities and stuff.
Okay.
They can do.
You're getting a bit euphemistic there, and I was like, is this some kind of sex show, Alex? Is this some kind of animal kink?
Hosted by Benedict Cumberbatch on Disney Plus. No, Robin, it is not. No. I think you have to go to some seedy, dodgy back alleys for that kind of thing that you're referencing.
I wouldn't know, Alex, but you do apparently. So thanks for the tip.
But I don't know if we planned this, especially given that Martin is currently, I think we just don't want to get on WWF's wrong side like Martin clearly has. Because my fact of the week is also about animals, but it's about something I've never thought of before. But sea urchins?
Yes.
Those round spiky balls in the ocean? Sea urchins?
Yeah.
I never thought about this before, but calling them a sea urchin would imply the existence of a land urchin.
Yes, it would,
right?
actually. that's a very good point.
So
Yes.
what animal do you think would be a land urchin if you had to name one?
I'm afraid the only other times I've heard the word urchin used is in the context of orphan boys on Victorian London streets.
Also another very interesting thing, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
well, what kind of animal springs to mind when you think of like an orphan child, a Dickensian child?
That's a good question. I don't know, because sea urchins is a very specific thing. What's the land equivalent of that? Something like a hedgehog? I don't know.
Oh, you might have got it in one, Robin, as has
No.
Jan in the chat. Hedgehogs, yes. And actually, hedgehogs are,
Really?
in other languages, literally translates to ocean hedgehogs. Urchin is the word that means hedgehog. It comes from
Really?
a 13th century French word, irchon, which means hedgehog.
Right.
So in Spain, I think
Wow.
they refer it to like hedgehog over the sea is a sea urchin, and in some languages they still refer to hedgehogs as
That's really cool. I did not know that. That's a
Yeah.
fantastic fact. I suddenly feel a lot more fond of sea urchins than I ever did before, now that I know that they're the
But
cousins of hedgehogs.
it is interesting though, because you said the only other time you hear urchin is like street urchin, which is so weird. Why do you hear that? No one.
I have no idea what.
I tried
Now
looking
that I know what urchin means, it makes even less sense to,
Yeah.
to call them that.
Because it's like
Yeah.
I guess you're associating them like a poor orphan child with a hedgehog, and I think the comparison doesn't really work today because hedgehogs are so rare. But I think possibly the reason why they were called street urchins is because hedgehogs were so commonplace at the kind of
Right.
Charles Dickens time, like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Plus maybe the spiky, greasy hair.
Yeah.
Could be seen to be a bit hedgehog-like. I don't know.
You wouldn't want to go near one either. They'd probably stab you with their spiky personality,
It's an interesting comparison and one that I'd never really thought of before.
Yeah. Oh, we've got a comment in the chat from Catjab, who's quoting presumably Wikipedia, but says that it's referring to poor children who slept on the street in heaps akin to rodent nests and rifled through rubbish piles, as hedgehogs do, I suppose.
As hedgehogs do.
So it's a behavioural thing rather than an appearance or character-based thing.
Fair enough.
That's really interesting.
Have you seen a hedgehog recently? I haven't seen a hedgehog in
No,
a decade.
not for a very, very long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, partly I live in a block of flats in the city, so not much opportunity to see hedgehogs. But I feel like even when I had access to gardens and slightly more rural areas, hedgehogs, nah, I haven't seen them.
Fair
Which
enough.
makes me sad. I like hedgehogs.
Yeah, they're cute.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I feel like they're very British as well, although clearly not. If every other language has hedgehogs and calls them urchins and therefore identifies the sea urchin as the marine hedgehog. I don't know. I always think of hedgehogs as quite a British thing, but I guess not.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, it does feel kind of like a British animal, doesn't it? Like a badger or something. But no, I think they must be pretty common in other parts of the world as well. Spiffings added a bit of context in the chat, saying hedgehogs have declined by 30 to 75% in rural areas of the UK. That's and then they say, that's quite a broad range, Google. Yeah.
30 to 75%.
Somewhere between 0% and 100%. Yes.
Yeah, that's good. What's your success rate on this thing? Well, somewhere between yes and no.
Well, enough about hedgehogs. Although we love them,
That was a great
and
fact, though.
we
I
love
like that.
pandas as
Yeah.
well. WWF.
We do love
Please don't
pandas,
come to our house and kidnap us like you have one of us.
Oh my gosh. But before we move on to whatever we're going to talk about next, I just want to say a big thank you, not only to everyone who listens to us and is listening to us right now, but especially to our Patreon supporters and YouTube members,
Of
just
course.
are wonderful people who keep us going and help us to do things like the exciting video we made recently about Dick Turpin, where we went to York City and to the places where Dick Turpin was literally standing. We were there on the spot, and other parts of the UK as well. And of course, an upcoming video where we've a little surprise.
We
Hopefully
found
you'll
him,
enjoy
Robert.
it when it comes up.
We found
We did
him.
find
We-
Dick Turpin.
you know,
did.
We
Yeah.
stood, where he is currently resting.
It's true. It's true. Go check it out if you're into Dick Turpin. Check it out.
Although I hope he's not
of course,
resting too comfortably, because he was a
he
nasty
was a
piece
pretty
of
nasty
work.
man. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Almost as nasty as Dracula. And last year I went to Whitby. And again, thank you to everybody who supports us. And a special thanks to Rashad Najar, Caleb Wilkerson, Billy Morrissey, Laurie Rotti, Cameron, Triple Son of One, Troy Albert, Kurt Jones, Ports, Nemo, David Guevara, Matthew Ritter, Herb Brown, Jonathan Geisinger, Brian Blair, Oliver Kellner-Dunk, John Baker, Liam Mullen, Janie, Elspeth Elliott, Michael Kukulis, Jarex Nida, Margot, Henny Ruffle, The Super Show Podcast, Proto Hope, Antonio Correa, Nicholas Dill, Emmett Tapia, Hey Hey Swanboat, Peter Brett, Squatch, Robert Teenby, Preston Harrison, Yuki Vasquez, Ahmad, Peaswad, Josh Chomatek, A Filthy Casual, Lisa, Simon Workman, Sir Christopher McCrate.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Of course. And of course, I'm so sorry, I forget, you changed your name, and every time I have to look it up again, because I just forget what your new name is.
Is it the artist formerly known as?
It is the
Captain
artist formerly
Wonky.
known as Captain Wonky. Thank you. I was just trying to grab the list. Captain Wonky. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So all of you, yes, everyone supporting us on Patreon. That's it's amazing, and yeah, we are eternally grateful for all the support that you've given us over the years. We've been doing this for over 3 years now, Robin. It's mad, isn't it, to think
that's
of?
true. Yes, it was January 2020 that we started. Yeah. Gosh, that's a sobering thought. And you still don't mind me hanging around?
Oh, I'm about to. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't WWF really that took out Martin. Yeah, we're one down already. Just one more to go.
Through the podcast, I hear a knock on the door. I open it, and it's Alex. He's there with a silenced pistol pointed at my head. I'm like, how's he doing that? The trick is, Alex has pre-recorded his part for this podcast, and he's perfectly anticipated everything that I'm going to say, because he's a genius. He's an evil genius. Either that or time travel, which is possible, and we have discussed that in a previous episode of the podcast from a couple of years ago. Go check it out.
How wild would that be, actually, if we did that one time, where everything that I said was pre-recorded, and you were replying and answering to me in perfect time, and then I just walked onto your screen? That would be the coolest idea. That would be very difficult to pull off, but
it was so difficult to pull off. Well, we could try as an experiment, and let us know in the comments on YouTube or on Twitter, at JInterestingYT, or the handles that we said earlier. Let us know if you'd like us to experiment, and Martin, Alex, and I can each separately pre-record our parts for one episode, and then just simultaneously play them together in a live stream. And we won't edit it. We'll just put this experiment out there. Let us know if you think that would be a good idea.
That's a terrible idea. We're not going to do that.
Alex, I'm asking the audience. I'm not asking you. I'm asking the listeners. No, and it's all right, Alex. The get out clause is I'm asking them if they think this is a good idea. I'm not asking them if they want us to do it.
Right.
No commitment.
Okay.
No commitment.
Fair enough. Yeah. We have the right to veto the idea if needs be.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
But speaking of
also,
engaging,
Martin, Alex, I didn't discuss that with Martin, Alex, so there's neither of you have any obligation to go through with it.
Oh yeah, no, it's not going to happen. But I am interested to see what people think. But speaking of what people's thoughts are, did you have a comment that you'd like to read out, Robin, from the last week? A favourite comment of the week, or any in the live chat at the moment?
Oh gosh, so many. People were last week. Sadly, we didn't have a podcast because we couldn't get the three of us together for various reasons, and this was actually before Martin got kidnapped by pandas. We just through a mixture of illness and scheduling, we just couldn't get together. And loads of people responded very kindly to the announcement that we couldn't do an episode last week. And Bing Chilling Peep said, "It's okay. We understand life on the campaign trail is tough, Alex. Obviously, Robin is back on the moon base, getting his latest firmware update. And Martin, do I even have to say it? Back in the slammer for doing lines off of strippers. So predictable. And I mean, that comment amused me. It amused me especially because we've somehow each earned a reputation for what we get up to when we're not on the podcast. But Martin's has taken on a new level. So the running, I wasn't going to say it's not a joke because it's actually what happens. Martin is a serial offender when it comes to streaking and being arrested for public indecency. It's a whole thing.
Of course.
Roll my eyes,
Yeah.
But for this comment, apparently Martin also does lines of strippers, which not quite sure where that came from, but it seems entirely within character. So yeah,
It's just Martin's rock and roll lifestyle. You know, he goes out, he snorts a line off of a stripper, and then he punches a panda in the face. That's what he does, apparently.
He punches them, and then whilst they're on the ground, he shouts at them and says, "You should be extinct."
Exactly. Yeah, it's horrific, quite frankly.
Pretty sure it's a race hate crime.
It's definitely a hate crime, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? You're getting a firmware update or something when you're off. Martin's committing some other horrific crime. I don't know what happens to me. I don't know what I do. Oh no, I'm obviously
You're on the campaign trail.
I'm on the campaign trail. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't see your name in the list of finalists for the SNP leadership, Alex.
No, the problem is I didn't take any massive, crazy hardline stance. That's going to offend any particular large group of voters. That's the problem. I should have been more controversial. I was just the obvious choice, and so that's why I'm not one of the finalists. Sadly,
that's true. Yeah, or maybe you're the secret weapon, the one they're hiding in their back pocket when these three embarrass themselves so badly. They're like, "We need a fourth candidate," and it's Alex.
Exactly. Yeah, I've got a write-in vote going, so we'll see. I do have a poll going in the chat at the moment, actually, Robin, suggested by Jonah Isaac, who says you should do a poll: pineapples on pizza. What are your thoughts on pineapples on pizza?
I'm one of those people who very strongly feels that pineapple does not belong on pizza. I understand why people enjoy it, but I don't understand why people enjoy it, if you get what I mean.
I enjoy it. I like pineapple on pizza.
My gosh, you freak.
It's good. It's good.
No,
What's
I get
not
it.
to
I have
like?
the same reaction.
Pineapples are nice.
But it also crept onto gammon steaks somehow. Like, oh, here's a gammon steak and a slice of pineapple. I was like, no.
It's sweet meat salty. It's delicious. It's great. Why not?
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm very glad for you. Very happy. Someone else in the comment, as Kilgore Trout says, and anchovies. Oh, no.
Pineapple and anchovy. That's a lot of strong flavour that you've got there. That's a bold choice. I will say that.
In fairness to everybody else, I'm a bit of a weirdo where it took me nearly 20 years of my life before I moved beyond a margarita. That was my pizza was perfected for me for most of my life. Cheese and tomato. That's all I need.
What did you move on to from that?
Mushrooms.
Oh, you lost
That's
me.
my favorite. Garlic mushroom pizza. Oh,
no,
the best thing. I've had a range of pizzas, but that's the best for me.
Oh dear, no.
So is it pineapple pizza your favorite?
No, I wouldn't choose a Hawaiian, but if it's there, yeah, for sure. I'm tucking in. Why not?
Okay. What was your favorite? What's your pizza pick of preference?
I don't know what it would be called, but I guess if you're choosing the best ingredients for toppings, you got red onion. You've got Induja sausage, that like spicy sausage. That's really nice. Pepperoni, classic. I like 4-cheese pizza actually. Lots of cheese on pizza.
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah.
But also, Robin, moving away from pizza briefly, I would like to address another comment in last week's podcast. This is something that I feel like we probably should have discussed at some point. So I'm bringing it up now. This is from Tupac's grandma. It's probably not, but...
really? It surprised me.
But they say, would love if you guys would do a podcast or even just a segment on all the mysterious objects being shot down throughout the world. What's been going on, Robin? This has been really weird. There was the Chinese surveillance balloon that got shot down. And then there were several other mysterious UFOs that seemed to get shot down, and nothing really came of it. What happened?
Yeah, bizarre that a sudden flurry of these things have happened. Um, it's even I, who's generally, fairly satisfied with the way Joe Biden's handled things so far as president. Can't help but suspect that maybe there's a bit of, dead cat going on.
Yeah.
A little bit of we need to distract from the terrible things that are going on that people don't like. So let's shoot down some Chinese spy craft, which presumably, I mean, according to other things I've read, are just always there, right? Countries are always sending things to spy on other countries.
But
It's nothing new.
but this was interesting though, because before they shot it down, it was sighted, wasn't it? Like it was.
Yes.
Before it was shot down, and that was the story. There was a mystery UFO flying over the US, and apparently, I read that these had been flying over there during Trump's presidency as well. But then, why were they sighted here and not there? Because I watched a video of a guy recording it on his phone, and it was in the sky, clear as day. So, like,
Yeah.
why is this, if this has been happening for years and going on for years and they've just decided to shoot this one down now, why is this the first time it's really kind of made headlines? So I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
And then there was the mystery surrounding all the like other objects. So it always just seemed to happen so fast. It was just like, oh, we've shot down this one. Oh yeah, there's just some, and then the answers to it, like what it was, it's like, oh, random debris. What? What debris is just floating in the air? Gravity is a thing. Like, what is it? If they're like, it's not a balloon, just a bit of debris. What? What kind of debris?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's. Do you know what I mean? Octagonal debris. What?
Because it comes in on the coattails of these last three years, I want to say. The term UFO or its new alternative was it UAE? No, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena.
That's the one, yeah.
So the new term UAP. Suddenly, there's a lot more kind of the U.S. military in particular, seem to be much happier to talk about these unidentified flying objects, and it feels kind of weird that and now the next step is we're shooting them down. And we're going to explain some of them away as quite plausibly as spy balloons or pretend weather balloons, and some of them as we're just not going to explain what they are. So there's clearly something going on in the background.
It's interesting, isn't it? How there's definitely something going on in the background, because like, when was the last time the US government has a tendency to want to discuss UFOs and promote the idea that they're aliens when they're trying to cover up their own testing. That was what has happened before, and that's kind of where the idea of the Men in Black came from, with the whole Mirage Men and
yes, of course, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe this is, I don't know.
No, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, maybe it's not. I was thinking, oh, something's going on, and it's countries are really stepping up their programs of developing their aerial craft. But actually, it could be what you just said, which is the USA is stepping up its program of developing weird aerial craft and is now peddling the narrative of UFOs yet again as a distraction from its top secret stuff. But then this whole thing about that Chinese balloon that crossed America before they shot it down.
Yeah,
that's something else, right? Because there was far too much scrutiny and public attention to that one for them to be able to pretend it wasn't a Chinese balloon. And even China was like, "You shot down our balloon." That's what the Chinese sound like. So, unless weirdly, and I doubt it, Joe Biden and Xi Jinping struck a deal where Joe Biden was like, "You tell them it's your balloon," and Xi Jinping was like, "All right, I will."
There's something like, really, I don't know. This is, that you have those kind of news stories where it's like, we are definitely living in a simulation. It's like now, like
Yeah.
or just a reminder that things really doesn't evolve beyond the playground and like bullies on the playground and stuff. Like, well, this is a news story about one country literally popping someone else's balloon. Uh, except the ramifications could be World War Three.
Yeah, that's what I'm most impressed by, because I genuinely got a bit tense for a while. I think as a lot of the world did, and I was clenching a bit and thinking, are tensions ramping up? But no, they seem to have gone nowhere, right?
Coming up next week, India is going to push France into the sand pit, and the UK is going to put bubblegum in Germany's hair.
And Germany's going to retaliate by just bombing everyone.
Yeah, well, then the analogy doesn't really work. But yes, I see your point.
Water bombing, Alex. Water bombing.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. With having a great water balloon fight.
Yeah. Oh gosh, wouldn't that be good? That'd be a good way to settle international disputes.
But
Televise it.
Speaking of German atrocities, shall we talk about World War II and specifically the unsung heroes of World War II? Can I talk about one first? Would you mind?
By all means.
So one story that I found out this week that I thought was well worth saying, and he has received recognition in the last couple of decades, but really only since the fall of the Soviet Union. Before that, this person was completely unknown, and if he was known, he was actually known as a traitor to the Soviet Union.
Really?
But this is the story of Witold Pilecki, who volunteered to be a prisoner in Auschwitz concentration camp.
No.
Yeah. Prisoner 4859.
Wow.
Like many of his fellow prisoners, 4859 had been arrested by the Nazis and slung into a new camp at the time. And he was arrested in Warsaw. And what separated him from his fellow detainees? He was locked up voluntarily in Auschwitz concentration camp. So following the Nazi invasion of Poland in 1939, the occupiers quickly set about setting up a network of prison camps. And of those, obviously, Auschwitz is the most well-known and would become the largest and, yes, most notorious concentration camp. After the camp became operational, the first prisoners were sent there in May 1940, and Auschwitz became a camp that the Polish resistance wanted to find out more information about. What was going on behind closed doors of this incredibly secret campsite that had been set up? Witold Pilecki was a seasoned, decorated veteran of the Polish-Soviet War of 1919 to 1921. He'd seen action at the Battle of Warsaw. Pilecki was eager to help out the resistance in any way that he could. And he was visiting his relatives in Warsaw, I believe, when they were coming round and rounding up people to take to the camp. So he knew what was going to happen. And I think as he was being taken out by, Nazi officers when they came to the door, he told, I think, his sister to tell the resistance that the objective had been started. Basically, the mission had been started. So he knew what he was doing when he was being arrested. He was being taken to the concentration camp voluntarily. And once inside the camp, Pilecki wasted no time forming an underground resistance movement. He wasn't there just to, exist and survive, although that was obviously what he was trying to do.
Yeah, it must have been a major preoccupation, yeah.
But more than that, he set up an underground resistance movement. And their primary objectives were boosting the morale of inmates by smuggling in food, medications, clothing into the camp, as well as gathering intelligence and smuggling it out of the camp. He started documenting day-to-day brutalities of prison life, as he was there for years. So he gradually saw Auschwitz transform from a regular prison camp mainly housing military and political prisoners, to one devoted to the mass extermination of human life.
Oh my gosh.
And through all of
I mean,
this, he was just seconds away from death.
yeah, he managed
Any
to
day.
survive. That's incredible.
So he spent 2.5 years at the camp. He was able to smuggle out huge amounts of information to his superiors. He also began training this underground movement for a potential violent takeover of the camp if the situation was to arise. So he was planning for that situation to take out the guards and take over the camp.
Amazing.
His reports on the conditions in the camp began arriving in Warsaw in October 1940, smuggled out by escaped prisoners and civilian workers who had been persuaded to help them. The reports of German mistreatment soon being forwarded to the Polish government in exile in London, and they found their way in the hands of Winston Churchill as well. His first report reached London in spring of 1941, and it outlined all of the sadistic treatment that was going on to the prisoners at the camp. So, I mean, what a guy. What an amazing person who did this.
Like, I've often wondered how, because I knew that intelligence services knew about the concentration camps before they ever became public knowledge. But I did often wonder how they found out the level of detail that they did. And they literally had a man on the inside sending information out to them. Whilst, and it's not just regular spying, because he's got to put so much effort into just surviving.
Yeah, of course.
And yet also spend time smuggling out information and preparing a violent takeover, which is a shame. Did he ever attempt that? Because it's a shame that never came about.
No, but in 1943, the Gestapo were hot on the heels of his organization that he'd set up within the camp, and they'd killed several of its most prominent members. So it became clear to him that the information he had about the camp was too important to lose at this point. So he did make an escape of the camp at this point. He got a transfer to the camp's bakery, which was situated 2 miles outside of Auschwitz. And with the aid of two friends, he cut the phone and alarm lines in the bakery, overpowered a guard, and escaped using a duplicate key that had opened the building's front door. He left Auschwitz on the night of the 26th of April, 1943, having spent 2.5 years there.
Wow.
And he made his way back to Poland. Made his way back to Warsaw. He's already in Poland.
Yes. Yes.
To the headquarters of the Polish resistance, known as the Home Army. And he compiled a comprehensive final report about his time in Auschwitz and the horrors he'd witnessed there. His account of mass executions, forced sterilizations, grotesque experiments. And just sadly, there wasn't really anything that could be done about it at this point in time. But the information that he gathered from this, I think, was incredibly important. I mean, imagine, I don't know, a lot of this information might have been lost to history as well. It might have been destroyed or erased. And I think the motivation of finding out these true horrors could have also motivated, the Allies in what they were fighting for as well. Just knowing the pure horrors of what the enemy were doing, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, because that's the great. I think it's one of the enduring appeals of World War II as a setting for lots of fiction, whether it's films, books, or video games, is the fact that it was, because of these atrocities, it was very much a case of good versus evil. There was that strong sense of, and at the time, I think that sense was already there during the war. It's like, we're not just stopping an imperialist, expansionist rival power in the form of Germany, which is what World War I was. Oh, our rivals are getting stronger. Let's go to fight them. In World War II, it's definitely, we are stopping evil from spreading. And that's just...
Yeah, it wasn't just... It was as well, but it was wasn't as much, politicians just sending their sons and daughters and the younger generations off to their deaths for like meaninglessness. There was clear, tangible. No, you are fighting against arguably the most obvious baddies the world has ever known.
Yes, yes. The ones who wear all black with skulls on their uniforms.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
But following this report, in 1944, Pilecki fought in the Warsaw Uprising. As the Soviets advanced towards the Polish capital, the Home Army rose up and attacked the occupying German forces in the hope that the Red Army would join in the fight and free the city. Unfortunately, Stalin had no desire to see the Polish resistance and the country's government in exile run post-war Poland. Following the war, Poland was run by or governed by the communist regime. To achieve this aim, Stalin had to ensure that the Home Army was wiped off the face of the earth. The Red Army sat back and allowed a ferocious German counterattack to crush this Home Army uprising. Pilecki was taken prisoner and spent the rest of the war in captivity. But he was liberated by American troops on the 28th of April in 1945. And he swiftly joined the intelligence division of the Polish army and was sent to Italy. But he wouldn't remain there for long, as he returned to his homeland, and sadly his story doesn't have a happy ending.
No.
He returned to Warsaw under an assumed name in December 1945 to try and gather intelligence on a new hostile regime, but the Soviet regime, who was now in charge of post-war Poland.
Yeah.
And despite being warned that his cover had been blown, he took the unfortunate decision to choose duty over self-preservation and continued his work there gathering intelligence. He was arrested in April 1947 and thrown in jail. And it's not quite known what happened to him, but it's thought he endured almost a year of unspeakable torture and deprivation at the hands of Soviet captors, before being subject to a show trial organized and held in 1948, and he received the death penalty at the age of 47. And nothing was really known about him until the fall of the Soviet Union. He didn't really... But now he is viewed as a hero in Poland, and he has received recognition in the last couple of decades, but still a story that I'd never heard before. Someone who literally volunteered to go into, hell, essentially, for the good of for the good of everyone.
He had that courage. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness! Thank you for I'd never heard about him or anyone doing anything like he did. So thank you so much for choosing that person.
And of course, we're choosing people that stand out to us. But I mean, there are countless people that we could have chosen for this discussion as well. It's incredibly difficult to choose. But yes, Robin, did you have anyone in mind that you wanted to discuss?
I did. I've got someone who the theme here, I guess, it seems to be espionage, spies, people who volunteered to do things for their country secretly, or rather not for their country, but against evil secretly. This was something this man's existence really wasn't really known until 1999, when some documents were declassified by MI6 in Britain, and then more details about what this person did were revealed by declassified documents in 2016. So it's still relatively recent.
Oh, wow. That is recent, yeah.
Yeah. That we know about what this fella did. And his name was Juan Puyol Garcia, who was only 28 in 1940. And as his name suggests, he was Spanish. And during World War II, and this is something that I forget, so I don't know if people listening often forget this, Spain was neutral during World War II. But it was run by fascists under Franco. And although it was officially neutral, you can guess which side of the war it helped out a little bit more than the other. As they were fascists, they helped out Nazi Germany. And even Franco met with Hitler in 1941 or 1940 itself, perhaps. He met with him to kind of volunteer and say, hey, do you want Spain to come in on your side?
Oh, wow. I didn't
And
even know that. Wow.
yeah,
And
for
Hitler was
some
like,
reason,
nah, forget it.
yeah, apparently, yeah, they literally met, but nothing came of the meeting, and Spain stayed neutral throughout the rest of the war. Not sure why. But because of their close ties through a common love of fascism, the Nazis had a strong presence in Spain, and they cooperated unofficially, but quite extensively. And the Nazis were particularly keen to use Spain as a spy, a source of intelligence gathering, because Spain was neutral, it was still trading with Britain and its allies. At the beginning of the war in 1940, Britain was the only country standing up to Nazi Germany. The rest of Europe had fallen. America hadn't entered the war yet. Britain was alone. Britain and its empire was alone, facing down the Nazis. And of course, remember, there's Dunkirk, the infamous, I suppose, retreat of British forces from French territory. The Nazis driven them out, and then the Battle of Britain, where if the British hadn't won that, Nazis probably would have invaded Britain and it would have been over. So Spain was a useful source of intelligence, both for the Nazis and for the British. And this man, Juan Paul Garcia, had fought in the Spanish Civil War on both sides.
Okay.
On the fascist side and the communist side. And his experiences on both sides were so terrible that he developed a lifelong hatred of both fascism and communism. So he picked the British, and he volunteered to become a spy for the British 3 times.
Wow.
1940, and got turned down every single time. The British just didn't think he'd be very useful to them. He was young, he was inexperienced, couldn't speak German, and he was in Spain and wasn't really that close to what the Germans were planning. German high command was in Berlin, obviously. What could he do?
He wasn't top of their list, to be honest, at this point in the war, maybe.
He was not, no. So Garcia decided to become a spy for the Nazis with a deliberate intention of then becoming a double agent for the British.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so to do this, he created a new persona for himself and pretended to be a fanatical pro-Nazi. And he obtained a fake diplomatic passport with which he could convince the Nazis that he was able to, using this diplomatic passport, travel freely between Britain and Spain, and therefore spy on the British.
Okay.
So he told the Nazis that with his diplomatic duties, which he didn't have, he'd be traveling to London a lot, and when he traveled to London, he could spy on the British and recruit other spies who were sympathetic to the Nazis to gather intelligence on British activities. The Nazis accepted him, and they sent him to London. He never actually went to London. What he did instead was go to Lisbon, and he told the Nazis that he went to London. And to maintain this charade, he sent them fake reports about his travels through the UK and his experiences in the UK, using information that he got from travel guides and books and magazines from his local library.
It would be way easier today, wouldn't it? You could just...
it really would with the internet, yeah.
Get a green screen behind you.
Yeah, grab some photos from someone else's Instagram. And he even sent them fake receipts for his travel expenses.
Wow, okay.
Made using these travel guides. Now, because he'd never been to Britain before, and because he was using travel guides from his local library, some of which were out of date, the information he gave the Nazis actually contains a lot of factual errors, and anyone who knew Britain, reading his reports, would probably have picked up on the fact that he clearly was making stuff up. But he got around this problem by creating a network of sub-agents, spies that he was recruiting, in inverted commas, to this network of which he was the head. None of them existed. He created 27 fake personalities, all of them supposedly spies in Britain, a couple of them in Spain.
Were they
None
all
of them
were they all
were
getting
real.
salaries from the Nazis as well? Did he?
They did get expenses. Some of them got paid. Yeah.
Amazing.
Apparently, one of them was a widow for whom he obtained a genuine, but obviously under false pretenses, widow's pension for.
Wow.
And he, another one of them.
That's such a great idea, isn't it? You just get a ghost army,
Yeah,
and charge it to their account.
one of them was a Venezuelan in Glasgow. One of them was a U.S. Army sergeant, and another one was a Welsh nationalist leading a group of fascists called the Brothers of the Aryan World Order in Swansea, which is South Wales, for anyone who doesn't know where Swansea is. So he created this network of fake agents, and he used them and said whenever there was factual errors in his reports, he would blame the agents and say, "Oh, they're not doing a great job," but give them time. And in 1942, he got the attention of MI6 after he'd managed to convince the Germans to chase a British military convoy that wasn't real.
Nice.
So the British intercepted German intelligence reports and radio signals that they were chasing these British ships, and the MI6 is like, "What do they? How? There's nothing there. What are they chasing?" Okay, and then he went to them and said, "Hey, I did that," and so they hired him.
So they were like, "We like your stuff, kid. How'd you like to go pro?"
Exactly. It was exactly like that. So he worked closely with a Spanish-speaking British Secret Service agent called Tommy Harris, who then started coordinating Garcia's misinformation campaign. And they did this in making contact via ostensibly innocent handwritten letters, which had a secret code and concealed secret writing. And they were addressed to a post box in Lisbon that belonged to the Nazi intelligence.
Right.
That had been given to Garcia by the Germans. So he was corresponding directly with MI6 through a PO box owned by and provided by Nazi intelligence.
Excellent.
So part of their strategy, and this is where it gets really clever, was to combine the misinformation with real information, which I'm sure many spies still do today. But the trick was to make sure the real information that they sent the Germans always arrived a little bit too late for it to be useful.
Yeah.
For example, a real naval convoy left Scotland and went to the Mediterranean, where they were fighting in Greece. And his agent in Glasgow, who didn't exist, remember, sent a letter from Glasgow to the Germans by airmail, dated to before the convoy left, but actually posted by a route that would take just a bit too long for it to arrive to German high command in time for the Germans to actually do anything about it. And the Germans were so impressed, they replied to him, and I quote, the Germans told Garcia, "We are sorry your reports arrived too late, but your last reports were magnificent." So they were really pleased with
They were
everything
just
he
like,
was doing.
"Oh, well, your spies are fantastic, but the postal system, what are you going to do? When we take over, the post office is going to,
It's going to be so much better.
so much more efficiently run." But cracking stuff.
Then here's the twist. This is why this is going to be a movie someday, if it hasn't been already.
How has this not been a movie already?
I know. In 1943, the Germans said, "We're going to need direct radio contact with your agents rather than this postal stuff because we need the information straight away."
Right, okay. Yikes.
So suddenly he's got this problem. Oh no, none of these people exist. How can they make radio contact? So his solution was to say, it's not safe for them to radio you, but what I do know, I've just met a radio operator who is fanatical about the Nazis, and what he can do is collect all the reports and signal you himself, and he'll be your point of contact.
Okay.
This radio operator was Garcia.
Of course I know him. He is me.
It's me, exactly. So there are two major things that are credited to Garcia's espionage. The first is that the Nazis in Spain, whose presence in Spain was large, and the reason they possibly one of the reasons that they didn't ask Spain to join the war is because Spain was more valuable as a source of intelligence because it was neutral and therefore still communicating with Britain.
Mm.
They received so much information from Garcia's spy network that they didn't bother trying to recruit any of the Spanish people to spy on the British.
Wow.
They had, as far as they could tell, 28 really great spies working through Spain, and they're like, we don't need anyone else.
Yeah, we got loads of Spanish spies. Really, it was just one guy who they didn't who wasn't even working for them.
Exactly. So that's the first major contribution that they could have had much better intelligence on British and their allies' activity, but because of Garcia, they didn't bother recruiting anybody else. And the second thing is that this network of 28 spies who didn't exist was so trusted by the Nazis that when the Germans started suspecting that the Allies might invade in 1944, they asked Garcia to find out everything he could about the D-Day invasion plans.
Wow, yeah.
Yep. So he lied to them, basically. And he successfully persuaded them that the main Allied invasion force was 150,000 men strong, and it was stationed in southeast England, in Kent, and led by General Patton, the famous tank commander. And more importantly, he convinced them that the Allies were planning to invade Normandy in June 1944 as a diversion from their real invasion plan taking place in Calais with this army that didn't exist, led by General Patton. And even after D-Day, after the invasions happened, Garcia kept telling them that the Normandy stuff was just a distraction. And they was so convinced by it that even after D-Day, the Nazis kept 2 tank divisions and 19 infantry divisions in Calais instead of sending them to Normandy to fight off the invasion, which gave the Allies a week or two to secure their foothold in Normandy and therefore inevitably lead to victory over Germany.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because that was all like there were a lot of elements to that deception in play. What was it, Operation Fortitude? That whole
that's right.
thing
That's the one. Yeah.
That encompassed using double agents like Garcia. But that's incredible, isn't it? Like, just the level of collaboration and lies that had to be stacked up, and it was so effective that like you say, like German high command kept all those units on standby for this massive invasion that was never going to come. What a hero.
Yeah. So thanks for indulging me whilst I talked about him. I just think we need to know about him. More people need to know about the contribution. And I think for me in particular, it's the daring creativity of it. I mean, it's not quite, you could argue it's not as brave as going into Auschwitz voluntarily. But not many people have the courage to say, I'm going to fake being a Nazi so I can then prove myself to MI6 and become a double agent. And I'm going to invent 28 people to just...
Especially...
and sustain that lie for about 4 years.
Especially as someone who, whose country hadn't even chosen a side, who remained neutral. He didn't have to involve himself in this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think
There's
that
no reason at all. Yeah.
In a way, it's easier to fight, for your country's survival as opposed to like choose to fight for what's right.
You're completely right.
I hope that doesn't sound insensitive or anything. Like it's easy to say for me, sat here, never having to get involved.
I was about to say, the obvious comparison to make is Ukraine. As British people, we're very happy for our government to send weapons and presumably intelligence reports to Ukraine. But neither of us has volunteered to go over there and
exactly.
Either fight or be a spy or go to knock on Putin's door and say, I love Russia. Make me Russian.
And he'll be like, why are you speaking
Actually,
English?
that's you're just putting on an accent. You're not actually speaking Russian right now.
That was a great
Yeah.
accent, though, Robin. I loved it.
Thank you. It's not as good as Steven Seagal's Russian accent, which I'm sure is perfect by now. Yeah.
Great,
So, have you got
fantastic.
any more that you'd like to talk about?
There is one. Speaking of Ukraine, but I thought I'd bring up Lyudmila Pavlichenko, who was a Soviet sniper in the Red Army during World War II. And she is apparently the most prolific female sniper, or like the sniper with the most confirmed kills in the Red Army.
Right.
She's apparently killed 309 soldiers, was her tally.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the most successful female sniper in history.
Gosh.
Which
Can I ask a facetious question? What's her longest kill streak?
I don't know. I don't know.
Sorry.
But she survived the war anyway.
Yeah.
But during World War II, in June 1941, she was aged 25. And she was in her fourth year studying in Kyiv University when Nazi Germany began its invasion of the Soviet Union. She was among the first round of volunteers at the Odessa recruiting office, where she requested to join the infantry. They tried to push her to be a nurse, but she refused. After completing multiple training courses, she was accepted into the army as a sniper and joined the Red Army's 25th Rifle Division. She became one of 2,000 female snipers in the Red Army.
Oh, wow.
Of whom about 500, only 500 survived the war. Yeah. And although she was assigned a combat role, she was issued with just a frag grenade because of weapon shortages at this time. So, and she picked up a gun from a fallen comrade. And yeah. She was in several battles, including the siege of Sevastopol and the siege of Odessa as well, where she was credited with killing 187 soldiers. She was promoted to a senior sergeant in August 1941, where she apparently added an extra 100 kills to her tally. And then at age 25, she married a fellow sniper, Alexei Kitsenko. But sadly, he was mortally wounded by a mortar shell shortly afterwards. Yeah. So,
gosh, again, this should be a movie. This sounds like a
in fairness,
fictional.
In fairness, she was the inspiration behind several, things in movies and video games.
Right.
In Call of Duty Vanguard, protagonist Lieutenant Polina Petrova was inspired by Pavlichenko. They also did, I think, a Drunk History. Have you seen Drunk History?
Yeah, I did.
She was one of the subjects of Drunk History as well. And interestingly, you say this should be a film. There was a 2015 film that she was the subject of called Battle for Sevastopol, which was, interestingly, a joint Russian-Ukrainian production, released in both countries in 2015.
Huh.
Yeah.
A year after all the trouble started, yeah.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think she died age 58 from a stroke. So, yeah. But I thought that was interesting. That
is interesting, yeah. And that just a natural talent for shooting people.
Yeah. We've had lots of different types of heroes on this list.
We have. I'm glad you brought someone like that. Because, I mean, would we think of her as a hero if she were a Nazi? Obviously, the Soviets were on our side, and she was popping Nazi heads.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you wouldn't consider them heroes, would you? But there were obviously heroes, quote unquote, on both sides. So it would have been interesting to talk about.
Quoted my favorite president. Thanks, Alex.
Did I?
heroes on both sides.
Oh. But I mean that not in the sense that there were good people on, good people on both sides or whatever. I mean, like
every side has a hero. Yeah, of course.
For instance, there's the most dangerous man in Europe, the Nazis' answer to James Bond. Have you heard that story?
Ooh,
I won't get
no,
into
I
it today,
haven't.
but maybe that's a story for another time.
Oh, that sounds really great. I could do a whole podcast about it.
But yeah. No, I think these were just some of the lesser sung heroes of World War II. And if there's any that you think that we've missed, that we definitely deserve their own podcast episode dedicated to them or their own future videos, do let us know. Or just let us know in the comments down below if there's anyone that you think deserves to get a mention. We'd love to hear them. I do love these kind of hearing stories of World War II about people that you just, because there's an endless supply of them, isn't there?
We had literally millions upon millions of people were involved, and so there's so many great stories. Obviously, always tinged with tragedy because of the causes for what was going on, but inspiring. And you hope, or at least I always hear these stories and think, I hope if the time ever came in our lives, I would step up to the challenge in that way.
Yeah, we hope, but we also hope that it would never, ever come to that.
Of course, that's the primary thing. Hopefully it will never happen. And if it did happen, hopefully making YouTube videos would still be a way to help the war effort here.
I highly doubt that, to be honest. Yes, sadly, sad as it is to say. But Robin, would you be interested in doing a little bit of something different at the moment? Would you be interested in a little Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game?
Oh, you know I would.
Let's get into it. Welcome, Robin. At this point, I would probably have the music. Oh no, I do have the. But we'll do it when we're ready to go. But okay. Should I introduce Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for those of you who may not know?
I mean, yes, please. Also, as a refresher for me, because do I need a buzzer?
You don't need a buzzer. But Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? There are 15 questions, and you will be given a question, and there are 4 possible answers. And you have 3 lifelines. You have 50-50, which will remove 2 of the untrue answers. You've got Ask the Audience, so I can get a poll going in the audience, and they can help you out. Or you can have Phone a Friend, which I don't know if you want to do this one, Robin. Maybe you can ask me what I think. Maybe that can be your Phone a Friend.
But might be a bit unfair to on a live podcast randomly call a random friend.
Call Martin, see what he's up to at the moment.
Yeah. We call him up and we just hear a growl and a spanking noise, and it's
Yep, exactly. But yeah, are you ready, Robin, to play? Who wants to be? Let's change it for legal reasons. Who wants to be a just interesting person? It works. It works.
I'd like to be.
Are you ready?
Oh my gosh, that was dramatic.
That was dramatic, wasn't it? Let's do it again.
Ooh.
Oh no, it's not doing it again. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Whatever. Okay. Question number 1. This is for £100 of fake money.
Okay. Oh.
Of what is volcanology the scientific study? Is it A, volcanoes, B, voles, C, volleyball, or D, volume?
Is this a trick question? Or is it meant to be easy?
These are those first 5 questions that are like super easy.
Yeah.
Or they're supposed to be, you know.
Because I'm pretty sure it's
I'll say it again.
A. Okay, go for it.
What is volcanology? The scientific study. Is it A, volcanoes, B, voles, C, volleyball, or D, volume?
That's a good impression. That was a good Chris Tarrant.
I don't know. Well, I think it was. I was losing at the end though.
That's hard to sustain, but it was good. A. I'm going to go with A. Volcanoes.
Do do do. Volcanoes is come on, give me the answer. Oh my god, why isn't it working?
It's an online quiz and it's frozen.
Yep, it's frozen. Oh god.
Oh my gosh. Refresh the page.
I think it would go to a different question. I'm sure that was right though. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you.
Pretty certain that was correct. Yeah.
That's why. Yeah, this is why, Robin. According to Doom, you didn't say final answer, so you didn't get. That's why it didn't go through. Let's start again. Okay. Which of these might be employed by a politician to influence public opinion? A. Junior doctor. B. Horse doctor. C. Spin doctor. Or D. Witch doctor.
Again, this seems a little easy.
I mean, it's for £100, so yes.
Yeah. People in the chat definitely seem to know what they're talking about in the last question.
Robin, you can't look at the people in the chat.
I was looking at the last one.
Okay.
So I'm sure they're getting this right too, is what I was about to say. Was it Spin Doctor was option C, right?
Spin doctor is C, yes.
I'm going to go with C.
Is it your final answer?
That is my final answer, Chris.
Spin doctor is correct.
Yes.
Well done. Okay, question number 2. If you were on the Dodgems at the fair, what would you be riding on? Is it A, bumper cars, B, carousel, C, swing boat, or D, helter skelter?
A.
Bumper cars?
Bumper cars, thank you.
Is that your final answer?
It is my final answer.
That would be the correct answer. You've won £200, Robin.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Remember, you've got 3 lifelines if you need them. Question number 3.
Yeah. How are the people in the chat doing, by the way?
They're doing very well, but we are on a timer, so let's keep this one going.
Oh, right. Okay. It's timed. Yeah.
Where on the body would a contact lens be worn? Is it A, the chin, B, the eye, C, the ear, or D, the nose?
That would be B, the eye.
And that would be the correct answer, Robin. Well done. Question number 4 for £500. What is
escalating.
A cormorant? Is it A, a reptile, B, an insect, C, a bird, or D, a fish? A cormorant.
That would be C, a bird.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Robin, you've just won £1,000.
It's like I'm in the room with him.
But we don't want to give you that. Okay, question number 5. The island of Guam is in which ocean? Is it A, the Indian Ocean, B, Pacific, C, Atlantic, or D, Arctic?
Sorry, repeat the question?
The island of Guam is in which ocean? Is it A, Indian, B, Pacific, C, Atlantic, or D, Arctic?
Oh, I don't know this one. I'm not 100% sure. But is it too early to use a lifeline?
You got 20 seconds.
How many questions? 10. Oh my gosh.
It's 15 questions.
Which was Pacific?
B.
I'll go with B.
Pacific Ocean?
Yep.
Dun dun dun. That is the correct answer, Robin.
No,
You've got £2,000.
Oh my gosh. Woo.
Oh, I know that you'll know this one.
Okay.
In which century was the Battle of Hastings? Was it A, the 9th century, B, the 10th century, C, the 12th century, or D, 11th century?
That would be D, the 11th century.
Are you sure? Is that your final answer?
Pretty sure, yeah. Final answer.
D, 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Dun dun dun. That is also the correct answer, Robin. You've got £4,000.
Oh my gosh.
3 lifelines remaining.
Yeah, I think I'll need them soon.
What is the capital of New Zealand? Is it A, Christchurch, B, Wellington, C, Auckland, or D, Dunedin?
Dunedin.
Dunedin?
Yeah. It's not that. It's was Wellington is B, right?
Wellington is B, yes.
I'm going to go with Wellington B.
Are you sure? How confident are you?
I'm beginning to doubt myself, but I'm going to go with that.
Okay. B it is. And B is the correct answer, Robin. Well done. You've just answered 7 questions in a row correctly, Robin. Well done. You're doing very well. You've got £8,000. In the TV series Upstairs, Downstairs, what was the first name of the butler, Mr. Hudson? Was it A, Angus, B, Andrew, C, Stuart, or D, Jock?
Okay, we've hit a wall. I have no idea. I think I'm going to have to go 50-50. Okay. Going on the assumption that asking the audience is not the best way to go for Upstairs, Downstairs, that 70s TV show.
So it's removed B and D, so you're left with Angus or Stuart.
Oh, bloody
And you got 15 Hudson, seconds.
Angus Hudson, Stuart Hudson. Angus Hudson, Stuart Hudson. Can you use all your lifelines on the same question?
I need an answer. You got 5 seconds. You got to choose.
Angus.
Okay, I'm going Angus. Robin, you've just won £16,000.
No way. Oh my gosh.
Okay. For £32,000. Graphite is a form of which element? Is it A, sodium, B, sulfur, C, carbon, or D, lead?
C, carbon. That was easier than the last question. Oh my gosh.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Robin, you've just won £32,000.
Oh wow, this is ridiculous.
Okay, now the real questions start. In the opera Carmen, where does the heroine work? Is it the cigarette factory, a cafe, the laundry, or the fairground?
A cigarette factory?
Are you sure?
No.
Let's go for it. I mean, you in the game, you wouldn't risk losing anything, so this is smart at this point, I'd say, because you reach the
there's a threshold.
There's there's a checkpoint, and that was correct, by the way. You've got £64,000, Robin.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
What was the name of the army camp in which Sergeant Bilko served? Was it A, Fort Baxter, B, Fort Chesterton, C, Fort Baker, or D, Fort Charlotte?
Despite catching a few episodes as a child, I never really got au fait with 1960s black and white American sitcom Sergeant Bilko, so I might ask the audience for this one.
Okay.
There's got to be someone out there who knows Sergeant Bilko. So, yeah, I'm asking the audience, how are they voting for this?
Well, the assistance that I've been given on this says that 40.7% of the audience has gone with A, 23.6% have said B, 22% have said C, and just 13 said D. Oh no, the time. No, it's reset. Oh no.
No,
the game's reset. It's got a timer on it. Oh, for goodness sake!
That's so annoying. Can't pause the timer whilst you're using a lifeline.
Yeah, that's annoying.
But people were going for A, were they?
People were going for A. I can't remember.
So anyone who guessed A in the chat, you were correct. I'm guessing.
What was the question again? Fort Baxter.
Sergeant Bilko's. Yeah, the military base where Sergeant Bilko was based.
Let's find out. Fort Baxter. Yeah, that was A, wasn't it? So anyone who said A, I think got it right.
Well done. Well done, you lot.
Well done. Would you have gone for that, Robin?
Anybody who got that knew more than me. So well done.
Well, if you'd gone phone a friend, I wouldn't have had a clue. So yeah. But I guess that's the game over, though, Robin, because the quiz
Because we timed out.
Unless you want to start again, but yeah, who knows?
We can do, but I don't want to bore you with being here all night.
It was a bit of an impromptu one, and I'll be honest, I didn't expect you to get that far, so we'll have to try again next time.
Thank you, and I'm
next
sorry to
time
have...
It'll be a bit more prepared, I guess.
Well, no, thank you for your patience, and what an inspired idea. I wouldn't have thought of that, so thank you.
We need to get some actual sound buzzers and stuff for it, though, like the actual
that'd be
the
nice.
actual sound
sound
effects would be good.
Yeah. So I'm now regretting never going on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
I mean,
walked away with 32,000 quid.
It's better than if going on the weakest link, isn't it? Ending up with like a 1 in like 20 chance of winning £500 or whatever it is.
Yeah. There's something about that show. I know this is not how it happens, but when I was young, I used to think people would leave that show owing it money. Like you end up like, you're a minus £5,000. You can't leave the building until you've paid up. Like, what?
Oh my God. Why would anyone agree to go on that show then, Robin?
Exactly. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. But in my head, I was afraid that was a thing that happened to people.
Well, give it a few more years, and I'm sure that it will get to that point. Yeah, people are just going on game shows to hopefully pay off some of their debt, but not all of it. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But thank you, everyone in the comments, for tuning in and listening to us ramble on for this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you all have fantastic weeks. And we will hopefully be back here as a trio next week. Same time, Monday, 9 p.m. GMT. And we wish you all the best. Wait, hang on. I need to tell you the answer to the riddle, don't I?
Oh, gosh, you do. Yes, you do.
Goodness sake.
Yeah.
So just to remind you what the riddle was.
Yes, please read it once more in that lovely voice.
I am always hungry. I must always be fed. The finger I touch will soon turn red. What am I?
What the hell? What is this? The finger I touch
You're
will
going to
soon
hate
turn
this,
red.
Robin. You're going to hate this, and I love it. Any guesses?
I don't get the last part of it. Like, I'm always hungry. Well, it's like a baby. Babies are always hungry.
Someone in the comments has got it.
Oh, have they? Clever clock. They're good at these riddles. I'm really bad at them. So, I mean, just thinking in kind of tropes, fire comes to mind. Fire is like, fire's hungry, Fire? Would you feed a fire? Yeah. But the red finger thing, I don't understand at all. That makes no sense. The finger I touch will soon be red? No.
So you're guessing
what that means.
What are you guessing?
I don't know. No, it doesn't make any sense. What is it?
The answer's fire. Yeah, you get.
Oh, it is fire.
Yeah. You hate it though, don't you? You hate that answer.
I do. What's the red finger thing?
If you touch it, your finger's going to turn red.
Oh, come on.
You're going to get a burn. It's going to turn red.
The finger I touch, that's implying agency on the part of the fire. That's the finger I touch will soon turn red. Bloody hell! You
can
go black if it's a a coal fire or something. You get a black finger, not a red finger.
It would go red first, and then eventually it will go black, for sure. But
thank you for that riddle. At least I got it, but I don't feel like I got it. I feel like I just guessed. Lucky. That's not.
It wasn't. Smart. It's not the best one, but that's my mission now, to find the worst riddles.
No,
just
I'm
to
sure.
You the most.
I don't know. I think it's me. I'm not sure it's the riddles. I think it's me.
Well, I don't think it's just you, because Doom in the chat says that he's seething. They're seething after that. And Catchab in the comments also pointed out that I need to admit I was wrong about pineapple on pizza, because at the end of our poll, pineapples on pizza, No has won the poll with surprisingly, it's quite closer than I thought. 54% of people said no to pineapples on pizza, and 45% said yes. So,
I'm with the majority. That's nice. Well done, all you sensible people. It's a Brexit style majority, but let's not dwell on that.
I'm surprised it wasn't higher in favour of no, to be honest. But I'm happy that there are some free thinking people out there that are happy to have pineapples on pizza.
Did you know that Hawaiian pizza was invented in Canada by a Greek chef?
I'm 100% sure that has come up on this podcast before.
I think it was a fact, yeah, a few episodes ago.
But yes, thank you everyone so much for listening to this podcast. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you have fantastic weeks. And we will see you next time.
Ciao for now.
Bye-bye.